right? In Android, we use various platforms like Kotlin, Java, Flutter, etc. But why are the Google pushing Flutter too much? Or you can say why they are concentrating on Flutter or Kotlin. You can just type in the chat box. So we use Kotlin for various purposes. Like in recent last year, they have released a Kotlin multi-platform mobile, in which we can use Kotlin for our Android devices as well as on iOS devices, and we can also use it on our desktops, etc. So, coming to Kotlin, what are Jetpack Compose? Jetpack Compose is a modern declarative UI toolkit where we can accelerate our native Android development with less code and build a more and focus more time on our major logic. We can use various APIs that has been provided by the Google itself. So before jumping into the topic, do anyone have any idea about imperative UI or declarative UI? Even if you have done web development, you might have some guesses. We already use declarative UI in React, also in Flutter. So imperative UI is actually like we can say that we are declaring that let's say we have a button. So on the button, we are declaring that uh, if this button is clickable, then do this task. If not, then do some other task. In here, we have to define that uh, like uh, as a developer, we have to keep in check that we are only responsible for declaring the states of the UI. So it's like saying that let's take an example of Uber. So there are two scenarios. In one scenario, what we are doing is we are uh, making book key. Let's say key. I want a pickup at this location, and the Uber driver will be dropping me at my destination location. So in declarative part, we as a customer or consumer, we don't have to worry about that how will that driver will be taking. We have to just focus on our initial and destination point. But in declarative UI, what is happening is that um, we have to guide the user. Is my slide visible? Uh, it is
Yeah,
imperative.
it is visible.
Okay.
Yeah, it is visible. It would be good if you could turn on the slideshow, I guess.
Okay. Just wait a minute because I have to switch account.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
is
sure. Only
disabled.
if it is comfortable. Yeah.
Right now it is disabled. Uh, Wait a minute. I will be joining from another.
Yeah, you can just unshare your screen and do all the things.
Yeah. Okay. It's still not on. I guess. I will be joining.
Rahul, you are on mute, I guess. You can unmute yourself
Oh,
if it's
sorry, I forgot.
no issues.
So is my screen now visible?
Yeah, it is visible.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So what was I saying that uh, uh, when we are taking an example of Uber app, so in declarative we don't have to worry about the procedure. We just have to worry about that pick me from this point and drop me at this particular final point. So we only care about initial and final point. But in imperative, what we happen is we as a customer we have to guide the driver that turn left or right. So let's take now this example in Android. So in Android, we don't have to like worry about how my UIs is represented and when it is updated. So do I don't have to make a check that if it is not updated, then update this property or not. So for that, declarative UI has been introduced. It was around uh, like more than 5 6 years. It has been in market, but for the native Android developers that are using Java or Kotlin, they were not provided with this support. So finally, Compose come up with declarative UI. So why Compose was actually what was the reason behind the Compose? So we are currently in Android, as we all know that we are currently using XML file system for declaring our UI. Now the problem is that we have to, if let's say we have two activities. I guess you all know about activities. Activities basically you can call a screen. Like in web application, we have multiple web pages in Android or in an app. We have multiple screens. So we on easy understanding, we are calling a screen an activity. So let's say if we have two screens or two activities, then let's say on first screen I am putting a value. Let's say I'm building a calculator. So in the first screen I have to input two values. You have already done the write a program about taking two numbers and summing it or subtraction. So let's say in Android, we are taking two numbers, but those numbers are inputted from one screen and the output will be generated on some different kind of screen. So if let's say we are giving two numbers and we have displayed this into our next screen, but let's say we have written some code that will uh, rearrange these values and they will change this value and in the second screen we have the updated values. Let's say first number was 5 and second number was 7. So 5 plus 7 12 on the other screen. But let's say on the other screen now we have updated those number to 10 and 20. So if we come back to our first screen, the values will be 5 and 7, not 10 and 20. So that for that we have uh, using Jetpack Compose. As you already know, because React Native, Swift UI, and Flutters, these are all the major mobile frameworks that are been popular among the developers. So Kotlin was lagging the support, so they have added this into the Jetpack Compose. So we can create a new variety of apps and we can just focus our main logic on the building part, business logic, instead of spending too much time on creating UI. So let's jump into the Android Studio and create a new project, we will choose empty compose activity. Uh, it is asking for name. You can just type your app name. Let's say compose new. This is the package name. Package name represent that it is a bundle which will be containing our all the files related to compose new app. And minimum SDK we will be keeping around Android 6. What is minimum SDK here is it represent that the minimum supported app that this app will run on should be greater than Android 6. So let's say we keep this as 12. So currently Android 12 is the latest version that has been using as a global. Uh, so let's say if I keep minimum SDK as Android 12, we cannot use this app in Android 11 or uh, lesser value. So we have to keep minimum SDK as low as possible, but we cannot keep this value less than Android 5 in Jetpack Compose because Jetpack Compose only support Android 5 and above. So to be safer side, we are currently using Android 6. It will say that this app can be run on 96% devices. Click finish. Now, what it will do, it will take some time to build Gradle files. Gradle files are actually a bunch of files that the Android Studio automatically generate. The basic uses of this is if someone asks, you can just tell them that uh, Gradle files are used to create APK. So if you want to share your app to somebody, you can just click on build and it will select build variant. Okay, that now it can be. Yep. So build bundle or APK. I will click on build APK and it will just use Gradle to build the files and it will return the APK file. So before that, it will take some time. So before that, we can use this time to understand the component and the structure of Android Studio. So here it is on the left side, it is Android view. This view is exactly as how you look in your apps like Instagram, LinkedIn, etc. So they have an app structure which contain a manifest file. What is a manifest file is that it it has some rules that should be followed while making a APK file. So this Gradle will call this manifest file, and this manifest file will return the rules and regulation which this application should have to follow while making or while building the app. So the some application is we can provide this app name here. This label is actually the app name, string.app, and we are providing the icons. We are also providing which screen, this is our screen activity, the screen should be opened when we first open our app. So let's say, let me just share my screen real quick of my phone. Okay, so my screen, my phone is now visible. So what this code is actually doing is, let's say when we first open any app, let's say we click on the Scribble.io app. So this is one of the screen which has two buttons. So we are calling this intent filter. It is actually saying that key, this activity should be opened when we first open our app. We are calling Android intent action main and Android intent category launcher. So we are saying that this activity should be our launcher app. Now let's run this app on our app. So in Android Studio, we can also use our Android devices instead of emulators to check our app. So for that, you have to go to your app settings. You have to search USB debugging. You can just Google out of your own model. Make sure the developers option is on and make sure USB debugging is on. After that, this when you will connect this with your charger to your directly to your laptop using USB port, uh, Android Studio will automatically recognize your device, and then you can just simply run your app. So I have just run this demo app, and what it will show is it will show how my app currently look. So anyone have any doubts up till now, till this point? You can just write it in the chat box, or you can just raise your hand. Okay, I presume that nobody has doubt. So we have run this app. We can see hello Android. So now we will look how this app is working. So this is our activity class, same like we are using here. It is main activity.k2 Kotlin class. This is I'm not discussing it in detail now because this was already covered in the previous session. It is extending this component activity. Let's not worry about here right now. Just skip this part. Let's focus on this part of code line. So we have written @composable. So what does it mean? So in Jetpack Compose, we are using these composable function for input output. We are here declaring that how our UI should look. We can pass any parameters, like here we are passing a name which of type string, and then we can also pass or describe our UI. Let's say here we are creating a text. Text is actually anything in your app which is a text. uh, should be like wrap in this parenthesis, and then we are providing that what is the text of this text view. We have written here hello. So let's say if I click hello one, it is automatically updated here. If I say my name is, so here it is changing it to my name is, and what is the name? Uh, this means that whatever we are passing here will be used here. So we are passing above. We are calling this greeting function. You can just control and click on this function name. If you just click, it will show where it is currently using. So currently we are using this in two areas. One is on our activity, and second one is a preview. This preview is actually used for this thing. You can see here, like if you have already have experience of native Android, so to preview you have to just uh, rerun your app every time, apply changes and restart activity. So in Compose, we have just put a preview function that we can see side by side of how our app will be going to look. So we have already discussed what is this composable function. It is that this is the function we are already adding a composable parameter so that we can use this greeting function wherever we want. So let's say if have to create another text, let's say copy this code and paste it here, and I will click on build and refresh. Let me change some of the text so you can just see clearly. Right now, you can see that the text, both of the texts are overlapping. So you may be wondering how to overcome this situation. How to, let's say, put this two text view onto the uh, other side. So we can use a row or a column. So let's say we are writing row, and here you can see the autofill. This autofill has been generated by the GitHub Copilot. So you can just install it. It will help you in your development. You just have to write less code. So we can write here modifier is equal to modifier dot fill max size. So what this it will do is it will say that it will fill the size of its parent. And what is the size of its parent? Matlab, it can be take as much as space as its parent view can give. So here it is some error. I have clicked Alt and Enter, and then it is asking for importing which class. So I will select the topmost. Now you can see the error has gone, and we can just simply put this here. If I click build and refresh, it will take some rendering time, and finally we can see that it has been taking. Now we can see that now it is the texts are not overlapping. If I run my app, I can just see that my app is now working as it is showing in the preview. Exactly the same. So we have covered how to use text. Let's say, what about button? If I want to use a button, how will I use that? So we can say button Button was asking for on-click properties. Let's display a toast here. A toast is basically a message that it will display to the user. So the live example of this would be, it is saying none of the following can be called with the argument supplied. Context. It is asking for context. So for context we can use this class name before this. So now the error is wrong, or we can just simply put get context for context. We can import this from coroutines. So basically we can also put its function. Okay, I have to just unimport this. Now we are back to save. So now we can add the properties. We are adding a button which will have a text of click me, and if I build and refresh, uh, okay, now it's working. But let's say I don't have I don't want this button to be put on the right side of the screen. Let's say I want to display it below this. So what we will do is we will just cut this part. We will just put it somewhere safe for now. We will add a column attribute. The column will make something like this. In row, we are actually putting three text views, and they were displaying like this, or as an alternative. So here we can also write modify fill.match size, and we can just put our code from here to here. And now this will be returned to zero position, 0 by 0, at the start of the screen. So if I want the button should be below the text, we can add this row button, the whole row property, above the button attribute. So it will work fine. Now if we run the activity, we can see the column is actually embedded in the row, and we can also create image here, image type of, I guess here it is placeholder, resource. It is actually painter resource. and it is asking for import. So if I click now, build and refresh and uncomment this part, we can see here that it will show this image, IC launcher background. It is actually stored on drawable part. So in Android, we have two part. One where we write our main logic, and one we here we declare or give UIs. So this is our REST folder. In REST folder, we can put various type of data like string, or we can put animation here. We can also put different kind of themes, etc. So in REST folder, we have drawable where we can just put any icon. We have mim map here. We can just provide launcher icon. It will be auto generated by the Android Studio. Next is the values. Like in values, we have colors.xml. Here we provide color with their ID. Strings.xml, same string with an ID. Themes.xml, it has this ID, theme.compose new, which is inheriting the property of this material.light.no action bar. We are also using status bar color as color purple. It is of purple. If I control click here, I can just directly hover into this part. Also, we are currently was using this IC launcher background into our button. So instead of doing this, what we can do is put it here. Now if I click build and refresh, now here you can see we have also added this image into our UI. So now coming to the next topic, I have already discussed what is preview. We can use this compose preview. We have this interactive mode. We have discussed what func.greeting was supposed to do. Now let's come to this part. Now what is this actually doing? So here we are telling the screen to use this UI. Here we are using compose new theme. And now what is the compose new theme? If I control click here, I will directly jump here. It will say ki, if dark theme is actually type of boolean, and it will check that in your app, are we using dark theme or light theme? Now you may be wondering what is actually a dark theme. Like in Android 8, 8 plus, we can just use this feature, dark mode, from the notification bar, and automatically you can see the status bar of our app. It actually changes. It actually changes according to our theme. So here we are saying ki if a dark theme, then use dark color palette. What is dark color palette? Dark color palette is using these color, primary as purple 200. Let's say water trees. So here you can also see there are already four files created by the Android Studio. First is color.kt. We are just defining that this is the variable, global variable, which has color this. Same goes for all these. Let's in shape we are defining that a small shape have rounded corner of 4 dp. And now you are actually maybe wondering that what is dp. So in Android we have different kind of devices. Why we have different kinds of devices? Because Android is open source. So like anyone can use Android in their operating system. But why it is not same case in iOS? Because Apple doesn't share their source code publicly. So only the phones with some specific displays that has been manufactured by Apple can use iOS operating system. So for that reason, iOS developers don't have to worry about different size of phones or shapes. But in Android, we as a developer have to worry about this. So for that, in web we were using pixel.px actually. Px. And if I click for this import, if I just import, currently it is using 4%. 4% of the pixel. So in Android, we are not using actually pixel, we are using VP. And in text, we are using actually SP. So let's discuss about what is DP or SP. So let's say this is my screen. It is now like currently showing me a screen of a specific size. Let's say now in Android, like in the older versions, we may see that the Android phones were very small. Now we are getting uh, 6.5 inches, but before that it was around 4 inches or something like that. So for that, if we define pixel, then whatever you are seeing here, hello Android, would be same on both the device irrespective of their size. So if let's say we have a small phone and we have uh, put it according to that phone, and now we run this app on another phone, we won't be getting the same height according to the devices. So in order to achieve that, we are shifted to density pixels in Android. So these are called DP, density pixels. And for text view, where we have to define the size of the text, we will be using SP, scalable pixels. So we were here. So like we have two two variables. One is using dark color and second is using light color. So we are defining the colors here. And finally, according to our dark theme that has been provided by the Android Studio, we can call our material theme. This is a class developed by the Google. We are passing colors typography. Typography is, we have also defined a typography variable where the body one will have font family as default, font weight normal. Font weight, actually, some of you might know that font weight, if I say light, so it will be very light. It will be like very small. In web development, we have like H1, H2, H3 up till H6. In Android, we can just use that as a reference. We also have font weight in our web. If I have to specify key, use the boldest. So we can just write bold. So if I click dot, we can see the types of parameters we can use: normal, bold, extra bold, medium, etc. And we have defining a font size of all the text of 16 sp. We have already defined the shapes, and we are already using the content which has been provided by the compose itself. This statement here, it is referring to a content which is actually a composable function. This content variable will be having a property, a composable function that will return a unit variable. What is actually a unit? The type with only one value, the only one object. Like in Java, it is saying that where we use world, in Kotlin we don't use world, we use unit. So jumping to our main activity. So we were discussing about surface modifier. So here we are using this theme, which is using actually this surface. Here we are providing a modifier. What is actually now a modifier? We are using this in column, we are using this in row. It is actually, we here we can just specify that apply this amount of margin or a padding, or fill height, fill width, or fill the whole parent. If you are already half familiar with XML, you can just take this as a reference of linear layout. In linear layout, what we will do, we do like specify okay, it will be orientation vertical or horizontal, what will be the margin, padding, the layout, weight, etc. And we are also providing color. It is using by default color. And here we are calling our composable function, that is greeting. And here we are passing Android string. So let's say if I change this Android full, and I will just refresh it, it will print hello Rahul. My name is Rahul. Rahul. Something like that. If I just run this app and check on my phone, it is saying that changes were not applied. Please restart. Okay. I will click now run app. My app will be built, and here you can see the name has changed. But now you will be asking that we have changed the name, but why it is showing Android still here? Because we are using a preview function in here, but here we are only providing Android. So let's change here also. It is automatically updated. Anyone has any doubts up till now? Please ask. I guess no doubts. So let's continue. So our main motive here was to build a birthday card app. So for that we have learned how to add a text, how to add this image. Let's now try to make this image bigger, or let us make this image take the whole size of the parrot. So here what we can do is center crop. So if we want to check and we don't know that how to write this, we can just simply Google the query how to center crop jetpack compose, because in the development you will mostly will be liable using Google, because as developers we don't have the tendency to remember things. So here they are saying that use content scale. Okay, I was using crop. Now let me grab it a content scale. It should be, and I forgot to put a comma. Now that's ready. And here we will provide fill fit. Let's say let here we provide fill bounds. Let's try this. Build and refresh. It is actually fit to this destination bound. Now let's put fill height. Okay. Now it will take the whole height, but it will stretch out because we are not uniformly scaling this. So to here to fill the height, we have to provide fill max height. Here we can just uncomment this part. And if I use preview, oh, something is error. I have put a one less curly bracket. So you don't have to use this part anyways. Now if I just reload it will automatically display. It is loading. We have removed the fill max height, and now we can see we have one image And then we have row which contains two buttons which have text hello. We can just write button 1, button 2. And let's now try to import some image from the net. But before that, we have like some code lab. So we have done basically most of the things from the code lab. Let's jump right to our next part first before jumping into the code lab part. So we have discussed about the declarative UI. We can focus on the declaration of our UI instead of thinking how they are built internally. Same concept as abstraction. Like here, we have taken this with the explanation of Uber. So we have already covered this. Via Jetpack Compose, less code, as we can see. We can The another property of Jetpack Compose is that it automatically updates the UI if we change the property, if we change the values. So we don't have to take care of our values. It can also accelerate development. Yes, it can, because we have to write less code. We have to focus more on our business logic. We can create beautiful apps with Jetpack Compose. So what you will learn today, we have already learned how to use text, image, column, and row function. We will shortly use box as well. We now know how to format the text, such as changing the text size and the font size. So let's now deep into the how to change the text. So if I just uncomment this part. Before going to the text size, let's just discuss the box view, because right now you can see our buttons gone. So for that we can put these two into a box, and this is the box, and we will put these two code inside here. Now we can see both of them images in the background, and we can see our two buttons here. Here to let's say we have to add padding वगैरह. So let's make a text here, text attribute, and the modifier dot padding, padding of padding of 16 dp would do. It automatically imported because I have turned the setting on. And let's add this same specification to this property here, padding full string. I guess we have to just write this. Here actually. So we have provided the padding soda button, so you can see that there is a space between the text and the inner border of our button. If we want to add padding, if we want to add like margin, so we can just say to change our margin. I guess we don't use margin this way. So now we have the use both of these button and changing text size and font size. Use of modifier classes for UI decoration. We are using the modifier classes here. We can specify font size is equal to, let's say, 48 HP. Just saying for import, we have imported. Now if I click build and refresh, this text should be now of 48 SP. Now we can say it is now bigger in size. If I just click code, the format file run. Okay, now my code is now clean. And we have also discussed how to run apps in your Android phone. Uh, if if you want to just you don't have any Android phone, you can just put emulator and you can run your app in the emulator itself. As far as I know, we have already discussed how to run apps on emulator in the previous session. So uh, basically, you just have to click device manager, create device, and then you can choose any phone with size, and then just click next. Then use any API level. And after creating your emulator, now I can directly see it on my screen. This is my emulator. Okay. So yeah, we are now in the pathways. So what are pathways? In Android, when you ever learn Android, Google already provide free courses where you can just learn Android basics without anything to pay. And these pathways are actually the best pathways, and even even the startups, wherever you will be applying for the internships, they also consider these pathways of a value, because in each pathway you earn some batches, and then you can just showcase your batches by clicking on my profile. See, this is my profile. Here you can see my info, and this is all the batches that I have get so far. These were the from the last 2 years, the same session conducted in Kotlin study jams. So yeah, you can also learn these batches. Mm, These are the pathways. This is the link to the Android Basic with Compose, that you can just refer to these resources if you have any doubt. As my role as a facilitator, you can just ping me, and we can work out the functions. I will share this in the chat. Okay, so this is the pathway. This is the unit first, where you will learn how to create your first Android app. uh, in session one we have concluded these two pathway, and we were now currently on pathway 3. In here, if I click explore, we have covered this part, text composable. We have covered this part, um, and so right now we have covered these two part. This will be done in the next session. So it's coming to our pathways. Why why do you want to uh, see complete these courses? You can just learn it directly